Hey, what's up studs? Ryan here, or MandRproductions, and today I'm reviewing a LEGO Star Wars Series 6 Microfighter set. We have the 7228 Escape Pod versus Dewback Microfighters set. 177 pieces is going to cost you $20 in the United States. Of course, if you play your cards right, you'll be able to find it on sale for probably about $16. So keep your eyes out for a sale if you're not too confident on that full price there. The three minifigures included are R2-D2, C-3PO, and the brand new Sand Trooper, which we'll take a look at momentarily. You of course have the Dewback and the Escape Pod featured predominantly on the box art. And you have the very clean looking box art that is kind of exclusive to the Microfighters, where it doesn't have the additional like Darth Vader on top. I would love to see them do that more with regular sets. I think there's just such a charm to it to not have like the character on the top right and all that stuff that kind of covers up part of the box art. Like I think it looks really good like this, and I'd like to see them do it for other sets. On the back side of the box, you'll find an action scene of the Dewback and the Droid Escape Pod, as well as what the Dewback can do as far as some movements of its joints, basically the head and the tail, which we'll get to. I want you to collect all three Microfighter sets. You can check out reviews of all those sets on my channel. This set does include two instruction booklets, one for your Droid Escape Pod and one for the Dewback. It also has the QR code, so you can access this digitally. And basically the reason it includes two is so that if you do have two people, maybe you buy this and you want to build it with your son or daughter, or if you want to build it with your significant other, whatever the case may be, you can build them both side by side with each other. So you don't have to have one instruction manual, and that makes it really hard to share and build alongside. Again, two instruction manuals there. And in the back, you find an advert from other 2018 sets. If you want to check out those reviews, you can do it on my channel. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here and you want to see some more 2018 LEGO Star Wars reviews. But let's bring over those minifigures. This is the first time that a LEGO Star Wars Microfighter set has included three minifigures. We'll start out with R2-D2 here, who is your typical run-of-the-mill R2-D2 figure. You're not going to find anything really out of the ordinary with him. Just a very typical R2-D2 print and look to him. No new third leg, no redesign, unlike some of the other minifigures, but that is the typical R2-D2 minifigure. Nothing special or anything to write home about, really. C-3PO is quite a charming look. I love what LEGO has done with C-3PO over the years, and this is a great addition to that. They've done a good job giving him a lot of printing, especially on the legs there. You'll notice the torso also has quite a bit of wiring exposed, which is nice. And we flip him around back, you can see more exposed wiring, as well as just a generally nice back print. And even the molding onto the back of his head looks pretty good. I would say my favorite part about him, at least what they've done, is that they have colored in his eyes, and I like that. I think that looks really good. It gives the character a little bit more life than he would have otherwise. The final minifigure included is the Sand Trooper. He looks very similar to the one that we got from the summer of 2018. However, you'll notice the main difference is that there is a new helmet. So that's something LEGO has been doing, is replacing helmets, and this one is no exception. I don't really love the new helmet. You can't really turn it at all, which is a bit of a problem, as opposed to the older one, which you could get, especially with the backpack on here, it makes it harder, but if you don't have the backpack, you can spin it all the way around. That's kind of the problem with the new Stormtrooper helmet. I mean, you can decide for yourself whether or not you like it. I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I think it looks decent, but I just don't love it. He has the typical orange pauldron there. Underneath, you'll find a regular, no, if I don't pull his legs off, underneath you'll find a regular angry Stormtrooper head, which is par for the course. And then around back, he has a nicely designed backpack, but it is the same as the one from summer of 2018, so nothing new there. He's got a pair of white binoculars. He also has basically a cattle prod, I would assume this is, and then he also gets a long rifle. So he's got more accessories than he can hold. Let's move on to the Dewback and Droid Escape Pod. Here's the Dewback and the Escape Pod side by side. You can see they're very similar in size. Neither of them have stud shooters, flick fire missiles, and or spring-loaded shooters. So you won't have any really action features. They're really just kind of things you can play with your hands. You really can't do anything else with them. The only real feature is that the Dewback's head is on a swivel, which can create some funky play time. The Dewback has some pretty cute eyes with just simple white pupils on both sides. It appears my brother has placed them in awkward positions, but you can get them both lined up and they would look pretty decent. The head has a pretty nice shape. He has some nostrils there at the front using the open stud concept. That's actually pretty cool. Again, some dark green underneath to give a little bit more depth to the character. If you look on the side here, he's got like the saddle on him or whatever you want to call it, which is going to allow your Sand Trooper to ride him. You can take your Sand Trooper and sit him on those four studs there. It's a pretty open concept. Like there's nothing really around him. if that makes any sense, unlike the larger version, which I'm going to compare this to in a moment. I think they've done a pretty good job of bringing the Dewback to life in a brick-built form. They've never done that before. All the previous Dewbacks have been just giant molded pieces, so it's interesting to see them do it for a just brick-built, purely brick-built form. He has some feet made out of tan pieces here with 3 toes each, which is interesting. And again, we'll bring over the large one here to compare to in a moment. I do want to show you can also put his weaponry on the side of the Dewback here, so he can load up with plenty of stuff. You can carry 2 things in his hands and 2 things on the clips on the side of the Dewback, which is pretty nice. A lot of space there. Backing us up a bit, you'll be able to see that this Dewback is very comparable to the larger version, at least in shape. Obviously, the color is a little bit different than the more limeish green, I suppose, compared to the sand green that we have on the brick-built one, which is constrained very much by the fact that it is supposed to be in a microfighter set, so they can't go too big with it. The large one obviously has a little bit more space on the saddle for a sand trooper, as opposed to this one, which has a pretty small saddle, which is pretty much built into the design. The molded version obviously is much more detailed, has some printing on it. The brick-built one does not. Obviously, you're going to have your pros and cons with each model. It's really going to be dependent on what you like more personally. Obviously, the larger molded one is probably going to be a lot of people's favorites, but this new brick-built one for the microfighter pack definitely has a little bit of a charm to it, so not too bad. That's pretty much your basic apples to apples comparison on the 2 Dewbacks. It just really depends on your personal preference, but I think LEGO's done an excellent job bringing the Dewback to life in a brick-built form as opposed to just their typical molded form, which they've been doing since about 2003, I think, with the original Mos Eisley Cantina set, which just so happens to be right there. Just haven't really gotten around to opening that yet, but that's from the 2011 Mos Eisley Cantina, and that's the difference between the 2 Dewbacks. Let's bring over the Droid Escape Pod now. You'll find that the Droid Escape Pod, while much smaller than all previous versions from 2001, 2012, and 2015 or 16, I want to say, is much smaller, but it does retain some of the traditional features. We have 4 engines with 4 smaller engines on the inside, which is very nice to see them able to fit in there. You have this kind of cone shape at the front end of it. Underneath, they've added in this 2x4 plate here, which allows it to sit just flat on any surface, which is really nice. And even though it is considerably smaller than previous versions, you can still fit both figures in/on it. R2-D2 fits simply on that stud using the bottom piece that comes out of him, and then you can of course sit C-3PO down in the pilot seat, if you want to call it that. There's no control panel or anything. There's nothing crazy going on there, but he can sit in there. You can also have him actually hold on to these if you want to just have him kind of flying off the edge. It's really up to you. I'll show you an example of that real quick. Pretty funny to have him doing that, but you definitely get some options here with the Droid Escape Pod for as small as it is. The biggest downfall of this set to me is going to be that there are no real play features. There's no stud shooters, there's no flick fire missiles, and that's really the only downside of this set. You get 3 pretty darn awesome minifigures. It is also the first time we've gotten 3 minifigures in a microfighter set, R2-D2, C-3PO, and the brand new Sand Trooper, so it's a great cheap way to get that new Sand Trooper helmet. I think LEGO's done an excellent job with this set. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I love it. It's an awesome microfighter concept. It's not quite as much of fighting as some of the other microfighters, but this one is still really cool for older fans of LEGO to get into something that's really made for younger kids, I would say. Like, you know, if you're an older Star Wars fan and you really haven't loved microfighters to date, this might be the one that you pick up just because it's got all these classic characters and classic builds. So I like this. I think it's awesome for a lot of different age groups. I think it lacks a lot of playability that could possibly be there, but obviously doesn't really belong there. So some pros and cons to that depending on who you are. But personally, I like what they've done here. These are actually pretty decent for display, and they're probably nice little desk pieces for like at work or something. Just very nice, small, compact, will fit anywhere. That's all I have for you guys in today's review though. Let me know if you guys are going to pick this one up and what you think about it in the comments section below. You can check out my other LEGO Star Wars 2019 set reviews with the link down below. And if you guys want to see the speed build of the set, you can also find it on M&R Builds, a link down below. Thank you for watching, guys, and I will see you guys in the next LEGO video. Peace out.